Durag Wisdom here, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Earth Date Y2K 21.03.19. And the music you're hearing in the background, once again, is Various. I've got so much music in that iPod. I don't want to be accused of murdering it by choking it with too much music. When I'm working with a new editing system, trying to learn it, so sometimes when you're watching this, as when I've edited it, I may have added some special effects or something to it. Just try to let you folks know what's available, and this is the Adobe. I'll be using this Adobe program and some of the effects that are available in that. I'll try not to make that too annoying. I've lived in the USA my entire life. That is 70 plus years. To be honest, I've had a love-hate relationship with it the entire time. Nothing, after all, is perfect. There's always going to be some opinion that will inform how one may feel about one's country from time to time. But for the most part, I am happy that I never took my freedom for granted. Please don't get me wrong. We don't have a perfect freedom here or a perfect liberty. I mean, we do have here racism, religious extremism, too much corporate intrusions. We got to get rid of these. We got to work on these things, without tromping on people's individual rights. But we can cure all the evils of our society if we take advantage of education, for example. Public education was the apex. I know this for a fact because I'm a product of public education. And taking advantage of the knowledge I accrued, I'm happy to finally understand at this age how good I've had it here, with some caveats to be discussed some other time. But lucky to have been born here in this country, nevertheless. After all this time, after all the experiences I've had, I've learned not to delude myself, not to deny the truth of a serious illness, for example. In this regard, and at this juncture in my life, where I am on my way out, not in, I see, and sadly, that everything we value as a free country is under attack and being threatened more than ever before. Especially, and I'm not surprised, in the wake of our nominating and allowing a dictator to be president of our country. With all of the threats that voting in this country is now facing, we must therefore support H.R. number 1, the landmark voting rights bill being shepherded by the democratically controlled Congress, because of the other side, the former Republican Party is bound and determined in the federal government and in state governments it controls throughout our country to hobble, to destroy our right to vote. And why are these former Republicans, these Trumpists, these teabagger Trumpists on the warpath against our voting rights? Here's why. And it's now a fact that was formerly a theory. If it were easier for people to vote, Republicans would lose because most voters do not believe they represent the best for our country, at least in this era. Look what happened in our last presidential election. Mail-in voting gave millions the opportunity to vote where none or little existed before, or it was very difficult. Sadly, it had to take a pandemic to teach us the importance of the mail as a conduit to the free election for all. And with Trump's loss, the Trumpist teabagger party, which I call the TTBP, the Trumpist teabagger party, is all out, all over our country, where their party has control to deny citizens their right to vote for whomever they please. The former GOP now the TTBP, is not a constitutional party. They deny our constitutional rule of law and will replace it if they were in control with something totalitarian. And tragically, the mechanisms of our law are at their disposal. Georgia, teabagger Trumpists, for example, TBTs, have introduced a slew of Jim Crow voting rights violations. I mean, a whole slew of laws, the worst. I'm hearing the worst since the time of Jim Crow. They roll back these voting rights. How dare the citizens of Georgia pick two Democratic senators, one black and one Jewish, no less, to represent them? How dare people vote against Donald Trump? The TBTs have other weapons to use against our right to vote and against our democratic republic in general. They have Citizens United. They have a hobbled Voting Rights Act thanks to the right-wing Supreme Court. They have gerrymandering. If we don't watch out, the beloved country of freedom that we grew up in will be gone and replaced by Trump, his family, and by Putin. I understand how easy it would be to lose everything that we stand for. I take a holistic view of our human history. I try to understand human history the way the cosmic calendar does. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the cosmic calendar. Check it out. Cosmic calendar. On that, the entire of human existence is the last 60 seconds or so of December 31st. Because each month is divided into billions of years or millions of years. So our existence is like, 60 seconds? The last 60 less seconds of the 31st of December? When you look at human history this way, you get a different perspective. You feel as if you are viewing the world as a supreme being would. The Roman Empire, for example, lasted 500 freaking years before it fell. To us, on the cosmic calendar, that expanse of time is but a microscopic dot, less than a dot. Imagine then our empire, our American empire. The USA won't be 300 years old until Y2K 76. I worry for its continued existence. And thanks to the likes of Trump and those who follow him, including those 74 million plus who voted for him, the final history of our country won't amount to anything in relation to this cosmic calendar. If Rome was less than a dot with their 500 years and they fell, if we fall after 300 years or whatever, we're nothing. We're less than a dot of a dot of a dot. Let's see how this downfall is going to look. After our voting rights are annihilated, and that will happen after a time, and our country goes down in flames, we will be known as the former United States of America until we are forgotten. And the rest of our species eventually will turn to dust because we'll always seem to be at each other's throats. The naked ape in us taking over. It sounds downright depressing, right? Therefore, all of us must support H.R. 1. That restores voting rights that the Supreme Court took away, that hobbled, that the Republicans are trying to destroy. With this intact, with this made law, this H.R. 1, all the shenanigans that these GOP Trumpist states, these TTBP states are trying to pull will be nullified by this law. And we can't allow them to use the filibuster to stop people from the right to vote. We are, after all, at war with these Trumpists. Most of us do not want anything to do with Trumpist treason, Trumpist totalitarianism. But those in the TTBP, are on board to undermine everything JRB is trying to accomplish for our good. I haven't read the HR1 in its entirety. I hope that it makes mail-in voting an option. But here's what I really want. I want Election Day itself to be a national holiday. No more should someone have to come home at 7 o'clock at night after a long day's aggravating work and then must drag him or herself to the polls. No more should anyone, anywhere, have to stand in line, disgustingly have to stand in line to vote, to exercise their right to vote. No more should anyone have to do that. Voting in our country and everywhere that people have a viable democracy or democratic republic, voting should be as easy as possible. And as proven in our last election, the easier it is for people to vote, the less chance the worst people will be elected.